All right, everybody, welcome back. We are diving deep today into some pretty fascinating stuff, actually. I think you're going to like this one. We're going to be talking about Nvidia,
Yeah.
specifically the massive drop in their stock price. We're talking the biggest single-day drop in U.S. stock market history
Yeah.
and what that could mean for the future of AI.
Yeah,
Computing in general, right?
absolutely.
And the source material for today is this, a really interesting financial analysis, but it's in Spanish.
Okay.
So
For
we've got this
Spanish.
translated for you, and we're going to be, unpacking that today. The big question is, was this just an overreaction by the market, or is there something more at play here? So to kick things off, this drop in NVIDIA's market cap,
Right.
you said it's a huge deal, especially for a company like NVIDIA.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, Nvidia, they're really at the forefront of AI technology, right? They
Right.
make the chips that power a lot of these, the
Mhm.
AI systems that were,
It's the hardware.
yeah, the hardware that makes it all possible. So to see their valuation plummet like that, it really does make you wonder what's going on.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that this all seems to have been triggered by this Chinese company, DeepSeek. It came out with this
Yeah, right.
cheaper open source AI model, and it's,
Hmm.
being compared to like OpenAI stuff.
Hmm.
So is this company, is it DeepSeek a legitimate competitor or what?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? I mean, on the surface, it looks like they could be a real threat.
Hmm.
Offering a similar product but at a fraction of the cost.
Right.
That's a pretty compelling proposition. However, our analyst Jose Luis Cava, he's not entirely convinced.
Okay.
He raises some really interesting points about the nature of doing business in China. He argues that it's highly unlikely that DeepSeek is operating with the kind of independence
Right.
that we might take for granted in, say, the US or Europe,
Especially in a sector like AI.
especially in a sector like AI. Exactly. He's basically saying that in China, the Communist Party, they have a very strong influence on companies, especially in critical sectors like AI.
Right.
This is a technology with huge implications for everything, really. Economics, military, even social control. So the idea that a company like DeepSeek would be completely free from government influence, well, Kaba finds that a little hard to swallow.
And you know what else I find hard to swallow?
What's that?
$5.5 million.
Yeah.
That's how much DeepSeek claims it cost them to develop this AI model.
It's a shockingly low number, isn't it? I mean, you've got companies in the West pouring billions into AI development.
Right.
And here comes DeepSeek saying, oh, we did it for, a little over 5 mil. It raises eyebrows.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Kava's saying. He's like, look, if it were really possible to develop cutting-edge AI
Right.
for that cheap, don't you think Western engineers would have figured it out by now?
Exactly. But they're not exactly slouches. There's a ton of brilliant minds working in AI in the US and Europe. Kava also points to the CEO of Palantir, who has been saying publicly that AI development costs are decreasing, but not, at that rate,
Right.
not by orders of magnitude. So if DeepSeek's claims are true, it would completely upend the current investment model for companies like Nvidia.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that Kava really seems to hone in on is this claim by DeepSeek that they only used 2,000 older NVIDIA chips to, build and train their AI model.
Yeah, 2,000 chips, that's it. And not even the latest model.
Right, right. He seems to think there's just no way.
He finds it highly improbable, to say the least. He believes that it's far more likely they use a lot more chips and
Mhm.
much newer models, but can't admit to it because of those pesky U.S. export restrictions.
Right.
Remember, the U.S. has been trying to limit the sale of advanced chips to China, specifically to slow down their AI development. So if DeepSeek were to come out and say, oh yeah, we used, 10,000 of NVIDIA's latest and greatest chips, well, that would cause a whole other set of problems.
For sure. So, I mean, this all gets us back to the initial question, right?
Yeah.
Like, what does this mean for NVIDIA
Right.
and for the future of, AI development?
Exactly.
Now, Kava also takes a deep dive into NVIDIA's stock chart, the technicals.
Right.
He points out that the stock basically fell from the top of its channel to the bottom,
Oh, yeah.
which triggered a massive sell-off.
Hmm.
And that happened when it dropped below 130, a key support level. Now, I'll be honest, when I look at charts, I
Get it?
I see lines and numbers, and it's like a foreign language.
It can be intimidating for sure.
Can you break this down for us a little
Yeah,
bit?
sure. So think of a channel like a riverbank, right? It kind of guides the flow of the stock price. And as long as the price stays within those banks, things are generally flowing smoothly. But when it bursts through, either the top or the bottom, it can signal a pretty significant change in sentiment. Oh, okay.
And that support level, that 130 mark, you can think of that like a safety net.
Okay.
When the price is above it, investors feel relatively confident,
Okay.
but when it drops below that level, it can trigger a wave of selling, often automatically. These are called stop losses.
Oh, wow.
Investors set these up to limit their losses if the price starts to tank. So you get this cascading effect.
Right.
The price drops below 130, stop losses get triggered, more people sell, the price drops further, even more stop losses, and so on.
Right. Interesting. And then Kava also points out that this drop, this massive drop, represents 0.618% of the previous rise, which he calls normal.
Right, the 0.618.
What does that mean? What is
So
it?
that number, the 0.618, it's also known as the golden ratio,
Oh, yeah.
a mathematical proportion that pops up all over the place in nature, in art, even in architecture.
Yeah.
It's associated with this idea of balance and harmony.
Kind of a natural order to things. So when Kava applies this to the stock market, he's essentially saying, look, this drop, while dramatic, it might just be a natural correction,
Right.
a rebalancing of the market after a period of significant growth.
Oh, okay.
Not necessarily a sign of, complete doom and gloom.
That makes sense. So if someone is following Nvidia, what should they be paying attention to in the coming weeks?
Well, keep an eye on that 130 resistance level we talked about earlier. Think of it as a ceiling that the price needs to break through to signal a potential reversal of this downward trend.
Okay.
If the stock manages to climb back above 130, it could suggest that the market overreacted to this whole DeepSeek news and that Nvidia might be on track to recover.
Okay.
But if it stays below 130, well, then we might be in for a period of what we call sideways movement.
Okay.
Basically, the price could bounce around within a certain range without making any significant gains.
So the big takeaway here is that this drop in Nvidia's stock, while definitely significant, may not be the end of the world for the company. And this whole DeepSeek story, well, it might be a bit more nuanced
It might.
than it appears at first glance.
Absolutely. There are so many factors at play here.
Exactly. And as always, folks, we encourage you to dig deeper, do your own research, and come to your own conclusions.
And remember, folks, the AI landscape is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
What seems like a major disruption today could be old news tomorrow. Pay close attention to how these companies adapt and innovate in the coming months and years. It's going to be a fascinating ride, that's for sure.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic. Until then, stay curious.
And keep learning.
That too.
All right.
See ya.
See ya.